I am Lisa Fain. I'm CEO of Center for Mentoring Excellence. Nice to see some familiar faces and some new on this recording. Today is episode 19 of our Thought Leader conversation. I want to introduce Javier, who is a Harmony Leadership Advisor, an award-winning creative director and composer for national television commercials and documentaries. His journey began as a choir director whose members had diverse mental and physical disabilities. And the choir evolved into a dynamic performing band featured in the award-winning film For Once in My Life, which now streams on Amazon Prime. And I know he'll share a trailer for that with us in just a moment. The film was officially selected by the State Department for exhibition in U.S. embassies worldwide, and the group was later invited to the White House. After he finished his work conducting the band, Javier created Leading in Tune, which is an innovative leadership development program integrating leadership and music principles to help executives and organizations achieve harmony in work and life. He's got a really unique approach, which has influenced national nonprofit organizations and Fortune 500 companies, which guide leaders to conduct their teams like synchronized orchestras and create a culture based on harmony. So welcome, Javier. Really happy to have you here.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much, Licha. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here with your group. Thank you so much.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about your story and how you came about this work.
Yeah, well, thank you for asking that. I moved to the United States about 30 years ago, actually. I was a trained musician there, and then meaning in South America, and then I came here to Miami, and I was called to for a job interview for a choir director position that will really change the way I think about music. I would really change my life. At the time, again, I was feeling very confident when I went to the job interview, until I got there and I realized that the group was made up of people with mental and physical disabilities. Now, I've never in my life even had a close encounter, a conversation with someone with a disability. So I said to myself, well, I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to do this job. But when I got into the practice room, something happened. There was a black piano that barely kept tune. I started to play. They started to smile, and at that moment, all the disabilities disappeared.
Mm.
The group, I think they were pretty desperate because they offered me the job with zero experience working with people with disabilities, and I started to work with this choir. The choir they learned to sing, but they also learned to play instruments, and we created a large performing band. These people didn't have any musical experience. Somebody's calling. I don't know who's calling, but it's a spam. Somebody, they learned to play instruments, and we created a large performing band with almost 30 people on stage, as I said. And not only that, but we created a film, which you mentioned already, which is For Once in My Life, and it really became an award-winning film, and we even got, as you mentioned, the privilege, the honor to go to the White House. But even more important than that, we learned, particularly the 15 years that I worked with this group, I finished my work there. And then after that, I realized that music has really powerful leadership and life lessons that we can apply to everything we do. So I'm going to just, so you can have an idea what the movie is about, because it has a lot of leadership lessons. So I'm just let's watch a trailer and then we come back to continue about this
Perfect.
conversation.
I've been working at Goodwill, it must be about 20 years. I've been in the band for, I think it was about 4 or 5 years. 4 or 5 in that, something? I'm getting better and better every year.
Well. Now I'm the king of swingers. Oh, the jungle.
This band is made up of people with severe disabilities, most of them mentally challenged.
And that's what's bothering me. Wow.
We have no knowledge of the existence of a similar band here in the United States.
I love like you, talk like you. I should
Besides performing at Goodwill, our dream is also to go out and show the world our talent of music.
Give me your best. I don't need 110%, I need 150%.
Once you have a disability, regardless of what it is, people just tell you, you're not going to amount to nothing.
Out on the street, that's what people said. They look down on us like we ain't nothing.
This song is going to sound excellent. It's going to sound tight.
The doctor say she's never gonna be smart, she's never gonna walk, she's gonna always be a little infant baby.
When I was born, I was tangled up in the umbilical cord.
He was in the borderline of retardation.
The drummer is the one who's driving the rhythm.
I call him my miracle child because truly he is a miracle.
And this song is going to be a hit.
I refuse to give up. That's the reality. I want to show the whole world and let them know how good I'm playing.
1, 2, 3, 4. For once in my life, yeah, yeah.
We're gonna rock that place.
I always
That's
enjoy watching the
wonderful.
trailer. Yeah, and you watched the film, Lisa, right?
Yeah, it's really beautiful. It's such a beautiful story about humanity and the humanity of each of the members of the orchestra, and then really them creating something that I don't think that they believed at the beginning that they could. So really, just lovely. Thank you for that.
No, thank you. Yeah, what happened after I left and I worked, as I mentioned, for 15 years, I realized that music has profound lessons, life and leadership lessons that we can all apply. And the good news is that you don't even need to be musically inclined to learn and apply these lessons. So this is what we want to talk today, because I took this program, these ideas of how you can integrate music and leadership into something that is really powerful, because music is this really, really powerful human experience that every person has in their lives. We can use that for leadership, mentoring, and any area of our lives.
Yeah, I love that. As will be no surprise to anybody on this call, I tend to look through things from a lens of mentoring. So as I was watching it, I really was thinking about all of the metaphors and the applicability in the context of mentoring. So very excited to chat with you about it today. And I think a great lead-in is to start by talking about harmony, because I know that that's the foundation of your work, Javier. So tell us a little bit about what is harmony in your view and how you see it be applicable beyond music.
Yeah, well, normally when people think about music, they put themselves into two categories, right? The music makers and the music lovers. But what we like to introduce, the new concept, is what we call the harmony makers, which is our people that integrate and learn from these music principles that they can apply it into their everyday life. And you mentioned the word harmony, because harmony is really the base of what we do. Some people think that harmony was this phrase coined by the hippies in the 60s, like, peace and harmony, man. But it's a little older than that. Actually, it was the ancient Greeks who first introduced, over 2,000 years ago, the word harmonia, which they use to describe the order of the universe, physics, mathematics, astronomy. So this is not really a new concept. It's something that has been used for 2,000 years ago. So now it was the word harmonia evolved more into harmony, because it was connected more with music, because it's that universal experience that every human being has. So that's why it was kind of connected to that. But when you look at the concept of harmony, is that we know that is something ancient that could be used to describe order. In music, the terminology is very simple. It's the result of tones that sound good together. And I will say that again, the result of tones that sound good together. And when you look into that, into your life and leadership, really has a lot of applications that we can all, do in everything that we are putting all together.
I love that. I love that. So, I think when we talked before, I told you my own musical training is almost nil, and I think it goes up to sixth grade piano lessons, and reluctant practicing. But I am a music lover, and these concepts of consonance and dissonance, which are so central to music, I think are also central to your work. So tell us a little bit about those concepts and what they are and how it relates to this work that you're doing.
Yes, thank you. Well, in music, when you define the concept of harmony, generally speaking, you have two kinds of sounds. You have consonant sounds and dissonant sounds. The consonant sounds are the sounds that make you feel complete, wholesome, like peaceful, joyful, And then I'm going to play actually an example of that. If you can put in the chat, how do you feel when you hear this song? It's a short portion of a song that has consonant sounds. I'm going to stop because I don't want anybody to fall asleep, especially at this time. But this is a beautiful piece from Johannes Brahms. It's a lullaby. You probably at some point sing this song to your child, or maybe your mom's was singing or humming this song to you to calm your nervous system. So this is an example of that particular song. But in music, you have the other contrast, which is the sounds that are dissonant. The dissonant sounds are the sounds that make you feel tense, eerie, like something is missing. So I'm going to use a quick example, and if you can put in the chat, how do you feel when you hear this dissonant sound? I'm going to stop because I don't want people to have nightmares tonight and start blaming me for that. But this is, if you have seen the classic film of the Alfred Hitchcock Psycho, this is an Academy Award nominated film, and it's when the famous shower scene is a very tense, very intense, dissonant music, and we use that. Movie directors use that to create that kind of tension. And now that you kind of know the difference between one or the other, I would like to test your knowledge, and if you can put in the chat, I'm going to play just a few seconds of a popular song. Is the song by the Beatles, Here Comes the Sun, and I want you just hear a few seconds, and if you can tell me and put in the chat if you hear consonant, meaning pleasant sounds, or if you hear dissonant sounds. Is everybody ready?
Ready.
Okay. Here we go. Okay, so what do we have in the chat? Is it a consonant sound or a dissonance?
So I said both, question mark. Christine thinks it's consonant. Cindy thinks it's dissonant. Michelle thinks it's consonant.
Okay, so we have a division.
Yes.
Yeah, interesting. Well, this is one of the most optimistic songs from the Beatles, so it definitely has consonant sounds. Definitely. And when you look at the chord structure here, it has those consonant sounds. However, it also has dissonant sounds sprinkled throughout. And this is precisely what a great song does. Introduces the tension and releases the tension. Introduces the tension and then releases the tension. So I love this quote from Frank Zappa, the legendary guitarist. He said, like, listening to a song without a flow of tension, it will be like watching a film with only good guys in it. So I don't think we really will appreciate that song. It will be a boring song. So in every song, a hit song that you hear dissonance. It's sprinkled throughout. It's intentionally put in there with a purpose to give you that emotional journey that you feel when you are listening to a song. So here's a key concept that I want just to take a moment to ponder about that. Harmony is not the absence of dissonance. I want to say that again. Harmony is not the absence of dissonance. is present in everything, and that's how it's you feel it in your body. That gives you that emotional journey when you do that. So think about it, about this concept, in how you apply this into your work environment, into your life, and everything, because we spend so much time and energy trying to get rid of the dissonance. We just don't like it because it's uncomfortable, but we do a lot of things, whether it's internally or externally. We do whatever is necessary to push it out without realizing that sometimes you cannot do that. It's just part of life. Dissonance is part of life. But again, you can have harmony, and it's not the absence of dissonance. Now, an important concept, and I think it's important to clarify here, is that when you play a single note in the piano, on the guitar, any instrument, just a note, you cannot say, Lisa, if that particular note is consonant or dissonant. It's just a note. It's the moment that you introduce a second note or a third note, a fourth note, but just for the sake of simplicity, just a second note, is the relationship that you have between the two sounds, how the brain interprets how that sound is either consonant, meaning pleasant, or dissonant, not so pleasant. So it's all about the relationships. It's not about the single note and the other note. It's how you connect those two. And when you think about that, some people say, well, that is the problem that is creating. This person is creating this problem in me, or this situation is creating this dissonance. But when you look at it from the viewpoint that it's how you relate to that creates the dissonance. The idea is that you cannot avoid dissonance, but we can learn to reduce the time that we spent in the dissonance, and also decrease the intensity. That's the difference when you hear the Beatles and when you hear the score from Psycho. The intensity is in the Psycho score, it's very high. It was composed with that idea and extended for a long period of time, in comparison with the Beatles that is there, but it's intentionally used and is reduced, and the intensity is decreased.
I love that. So very often I'm talking to, I'm either, coaching somebody or talking to a mentoring pair who's like, we have a lot of conflict. What do we do about it? And my answer is actually, let's celebrate it and let's figure out how to work through it, because, and this really speaks to that as well. I'm wondering what your reaction to that is and how you see this relating to mentorship.
Yeah, it's a fundamental concept, because precisely it applies to everything. Now, there is a way that I define the harmony. We define it in two levels. I think it's important to define it. Number one is internal harmony. And what is internal harmony is how you feel. If you imagine yourself as a musician in an orchestra, how are you tuning with your instrument? And internally, in a practical way, is how you feel with your feelings, with your thoughts, with your values, with your purpose, with your calling. That's called the internal harmony. And also, you have what is called external harmony. That is everything outside, the horizontal or vertical relationships that you have within the model, within relationships that you have. So the problem, the challenge is that most of us put a lot of effort on trying to fix or do something with the external dissonance that we have, when we really need to begin starting that within ourselves. How can we center ourselves within that internal harmony, despite of whatever is happening on the outside, whether it's in the environment, whether it's in your workplace or the relationships that you have? That concept of being grounded in that internal, because inside of you, all that I mentioned, your beliefs, your feelings, your thoughts, how you process different parts of your heart, different parts of your brain, even your body, because the full body is like an orchestra. It's a system that has, you have 11 systems in the body. How you relate to that, how you connect with those things in a way that you can create, like a good conductor, create a sense of harmony internally. And when you have internal harmony, that's called self-leadership, because when you have self-leadership, then you are able to conduct other people, meaning what is outside of you, whether it's the mentoring, the people that you're mentoring, or the people that you are leading, in a way that it's the connection comes from the inside and is reflected to the outside.
I love that. Um, what do you, I want to just relate this a little bit back to For Once in My Life. When you think about your role with the band, how do you think about that as mentorship? How do you classify that? And you know, and maybe use that as a springboard to talk about the role of the orchestra in learning and growth.
Yes, yes, and that's a great question, because when I started to work with this group, we started, as I mentioned, as a choir, but then I had the idea to integrate musical instruments, and they learned to play. And I never had really in mind we were going to have a band of 30 people. Just kind of came up that way, because we were adding and adding and adding more people. And then, as you can watch in the film, and it's a really a wonderful group, because people had so low expectations of this band. And when people were coming to hear the band, they were touring. This is when you watch the story, this band was part of a work program down in Miami, where these people with disabilities were working, making uniforms for the military and U.S. flags. And then what happened is that when people were touring the place and they came to visit the band, they didn't say anything, but you could see in the body language, it's kind of like, okay, I have to sit down here and just kind of be polite and pretend that I'm liking, because of the effort these people are making. That actually worked on our great advantage, because when the band started to play and started to say 1, 2, 3, 4, the band started to play, that the energy that these people, that they were playing from their hearts with the precision as a band, people just got blown away by that. And then you could see the reactions of how the expectations was here, and how the band was able to get to that level. All that to say, that was created within a culture of mentoring, because it happens to people that didn't have that musical experience, so they needed to learn, but they also needed to have this group inside of a safe place where they can be able to grow and be able to develop their talents. And I would like to talk more about that. But generally speaking, the whole time of the band was really concentrated within the model of the orchestra, which is a perfect model, a perfect system to create mentoring, because in the orchestra model, every person is important. From the conductor to the people who is playing the cymbal, just 2 measures, every person is important to create the signature sound of the orchestra, and that makes them sound better than that they can play by themselves.
Yeah, I love the sum of the parts is greater than the whatever the saying is. You know what I'm saying? The whole is greater than the sum of the parts. Also, I often tell people what a great gift sometimes to be underestimated, right? Because then you really can just show how powerful it is. It's really a beautiful thing that you created. Let's talk about a learning environment. So one of the things that we know about mentoring, I've seen some amazing mentoring programs fizzle because they're launched in the absence of a mentoring culture that supports them. And we know that mentoring cultures are learning cultures. So when you think about a mentoring culture or a learning culture, what do you think are the characteristics of an orchestra that relate to that?
Yeah, I want to share with you. Let me see if I can connect this. You have in the orchestra model, you have the orchestra model you see here in the screen. You have the conductor, you have the section leaders. In each orchestra has sections. You have like the string sections, you have like the brass section, and in each section you have a leader. It's called the first chair, or you can just call them, for the sake of simplicity, just the section leader. And then you of course have the musicians who are in those sections. And then you have the audience as well. And there is a whole 360 energy that is happening there, because the audience is also part of the orchestra, because if there is no audience, there is no orchestra. So when you look at that, the application is the application model that could be applicable to companies, to teams, to cross-functional teams, and also could be applicable to mentors, because in this case, the conductor could be the CEO, the people leaders are the section leaders, the musicians are the individual contributors or the team members, and the audience is the customers, or if you are a nonprofit, would be your donors, right? So, and then the whole circle that you want to create a culture that is around harmony, and we already defined that harmony is not this utopian place, is this place where you're gonna see and feel dissonance, but you're gonna find a way to create this harmonious relationship that happen again internally and then externally. So when you apply that to the concept of mentoring, it's crucial, because when you look at, I'm going to see if I can show something here. What happened in the model of the orchestra, it's really, really interesting, because you see here, when in this model, what happened is that every person that is here is connected to the other. You're either mentoring someone or you have been mentored by someone. In the orchestra, there is a mutual connection that that's why it's kind of in a circle, because you are in the position of learning all the time. The conductor is supporting the orchestra, but the orchestra is also supporting the conductor. The conductor is playing for the audience, but the audience is also giving feedback to the orchestra, and that goes to give them more energy and play better. And then each section is supporting the other. So when you look into that, into yourself, into your model, we all need to, at some point as leaders, we need to be placed in a similar model when we are either being mentored by someone, or we are mentoring someone, and we are serving someone, and we have a goal that we can serve others. Because if you just do mentorship and do not receive any mentorship, well, you are not going to give your best. And in this case, it's a constant learning that every musician in the orchestra, every musician makes the other musician better. You have the option of being the one-man band, like in the Mary Poppins movie character, playing all the instruments. And that could be amusing and interesting and quite fulfilling up to a certain point, until you get tired or exhausted, or just cannot really sound. You will never be able to sound as a one-man band, like the full orchestra, in a way that really resonates, because you're bringing the best of every individual, the best of every person, to create this great sound. And in mentoring, I think what happened, Lisa, is that we need to surround ourselves with people that make us sound better. We need to surround ourselves with people that can make our signature sound much better. And we're going to use some examples here so you can actually see and hear. But in the orchestra, you are looking in the mentorship, and I'm talking about something plural. Mentor is not just one, but plural mentors that you can have in your life. Someone that can provide different aspects, different kind of sounds to make you sound better. And when you do that, you actually make them also better, because again, you are creating this energy that happens back and forth, and that's what really makes the whole connection and the principles of music come alive with everything that you do.
I love that. And you're singing my tune, Javier, because this idea of creating a developmental network, of surrounding yourselves with people who push you and who help you move forward with dissonance and consonance, right, is really, really important in the concept of mentoring. So I love using the framework of mentoring to think through that. I know you do, an exercise that helps people think through this idea of developmental networks. And so I'd love it if you'd share that with us.
Yes, I'm eager to share that. I would like to mention something that I think is important about 3 elements that are essential to create a culture of mentorship. And when I work with companies, one of the first questions I ask, and I said, how does your culture sound? And people look at me like, what do you mean? How does my culture sound? And then an easy way, and you can do this exercise if you want, an easy way to do that is just take, if you're leading a team, or even if you are not leading a team per se, but let's say that's the case, just do a survey of your team in your company or a particular team, and ask them individually first, and ask them and say, if we are, imagine that our team or our organization, just let's make it for the sake of the team, imagine our team is like a band. What kind of music do you think we'll be playing? What kind of music genre do you think we'll be playing? When I ask this question, people say, oh, well, playing heavy metal, and then I ask the second question, do you like heavy metal? And people say, no, I hate heavy metal. Nothing against heavy metal people here, so it's nothing wrong with that. I'm just using that example because some people hate jazz, and I love jazz. So it just is a very personal experience. So when you ask that question, they say, well, I remember talking to a team, and a PR team in a large nonprofit, and they say each one of them have a different kind of music in mind, but they all dislike the music. One says, I think we're playing techno, which is, another one says we're playing heavy metal, and we're playing, and then they didn't like that. So the sound that they were creating is an easy way to determine, I don't like the rhythm that we're going to, I don't like the sound, how this sound, and essentially they're saying, I don't like how it makes me feel. It's just because if you like, again, techno, and you love going and dancing and that kind of music, fantastic, you're enjoying that. And there is a place and a time to do that. But if you're more kind of like a classical kind of person, or pop or whatever, then it's almost like putting, sometimes it's when you come to organizations, especially when you're doing these mergers, sometimes you have like a marching band, and sometimes you have like a jazz band, and try to put them together, and they say, let's come, this is going to be great. And the marching band people are very structured, right? And then the jazz band people, they like more flexibility. They don't want to read music, they just want to follow the chords, and they're very creative and all that. So think about that. Even if you use the disc model, you see like there are different kind of variants, but it's basically how the orchestra works. But what I wanted to say is that when you look into the three things that I think were really essential for our success as a band, that I apply to organizations as well. Number one, the people who were in the band from the very beginning, and I'll share. I think I like to share this story very quickly, because when we released the film For Once in My Life, we went to a film festival in Seattle, actually in Washington State, Port Townsend, a beautiful town there. And then I met the director of the movie Bruce Almighty, Tom Shedyak. He's a blockbuster film and many films from Jim Carrey. So he loved the film. He was one of the judges, and he asked me a question, very deep guy. And then he said, Javier, why have you worked so long with these people for 15 years? What has kept you there? It's obvious, he said, that you love people and you love music. But what is the reason? And I said, well, I thought there were two reasons, that I love people and I love music. But it got me thinking, and I couldn't really answer at the time. That night, I did some soul searching. And the next morning, I saw him again in the film festival. And I said, Tom, I think I have the answer. And the reason why I've stayed with these people for all these years, besides that I love people and I love music, is that when I look at them, when I look at Terry, who is the lead singer, who is blind, or I see Melissa, who has Down syndrome, I started to see myself reflected in them. Because we all have disabilities. I have disabilities as well. The difference between the people we call disabled and the rest of us, or whatever you want to call it, is that they wear their disabilities on the outside. We wear our disabilities on the inside. And when we spend so much energy and time and effort trying to hide our disabilities, trying to hide the things that we're not good at because of fear, because of fear of rejection, because of wanting to look, in certain way, in certain way. So what happened is that one of the successes that we had, the big success that we had at the beginning, was that The disabilities were open. They knew they were not hiding their disabilities. I had my own disabilities. I was learning to speak English. I'm still learning to speak English. But at that point, it was that kind of like that was got out of the way. And that's the first thing. Being able to create an environment when people feel honest and safe to say, these are the areas that I'm not good at. And I need to be mentored in this area. And then the second is to when then you start practicing, because it's something that musicians do when they're learning a new piece, is that you are going to make mistakes. If you are a musician and you start playing a new piece, it's inevitable. You are going to make mistakes. And this is something so crucial in a mentorship culture, because if people don't feel safe to admit they have made a mistake, they can never grow. They can never grow. And then what happens is that one of the programs that we do is how you can teach a team the art of, I call it the art of making mistakes. The art of making mistakes, because that, instead of hiding the mistakes, is how you can open and share that with everybody. So that's something that we created that. And here is when it comes, going back to the concept, Lisa, of internal harmony, is about self-compassion as a leader and self-leadership. Because I'll give you a typical example. What happens, and we'd love to hear what you think. What happens when you're typing an email on the computer and you mistype a word? What is normal the reaction that happens?
I oops, and I'm going to look stupid, or I better go back and correct that.
Even if you're by yourself, you're typing, and then the normal what we say, we get at least the
yes,
like
exactly.
that kind of reaction.
Yes.
So I ask this now. If you have a person, I know Michelle or another person who works with you, that is typing something and you're looking at the screen and she just mistyped one little word, will you say to her, will you react in that way?
Michelle, will I react in that way?
No.
Yeah, but even, I mean, you're talking about something that got published, but even if you are constructing an email on the fly, I don't think, knowing you and knowing the quality of the leaders that are here, I don't think we will do that to someone, even if it's not published. I'm talking about in the process of. Because when we are in the process of, we say, So just by that, think about if you can pay attention, because you wouldn't do that to anyone. So why do we do that? Why do you do that to yourself? Why do you do that to yourself? Why do you say, or why do you complain or curse or whatever the case might be to express your frustration to something that is you, a part of you that just made a mistake? So I think it's essential to have this element of self-compassion that is part of what we do to make this, create this culture. And I don't know, we don't have much time, but I would like to quickly show the model of the orchestra. Do you have any questions or comments about that?
No, I think that's great. Let's look at that. And again, just want to encourage those who are here live to just share thoughts, reactions, questions, comments in the chat.
Okay, very good. Thank you. I'm going to give you a quick tour of the orchestra and see how you can apply this into your life. The orchestra, when you look at the orchestra, again, it's a full system. And in the orchestra, as I mentioned, you have different sections, and each section has a particular role. In this case, you have the conductor is the most visible person of the orchestra. As you can see, he's facing his or her musicians. He's giving the back to the audience, which could be kind of rude, but although the audience is the center and the reason why they are there, he is so focused on getting the best out of the musicians that he pays attention to them, full attention. As leaders, we need to pay attention and establish a relationship of trust with the people that we're leading. Also, you have the string section. The string section is the violins, violas, etc. They add the emotion to the song. Whether it's pop, classical, they always bring the emotion. You also have here the brass section. They are the loudest section of the orchestra. They're associated with conquering territory. That's why, before there were radios, the military, that's how communicated with the troops on the field with the trumpets, because the sound travels really, really long distances. Even today, it's a tradition in the military to use that. So they're also connected to conquering territory. They are the loudest. Also, you have here in the orchestra the woodwinds. They are the ones, the clarinet, the flutes, they add color. You don't hear them all the time, they are not too loud, but when they come, they just kind of sprinkle throughout. They give you that color. If you think about a song like Disney, when you hear the flute, is there, is something connected to the innocence and something connected to even to childhood and purity. Here you have the percussion. The percussion is when you have the big drums, the cymbals and all that. They keep the orchestra in tempo. They bring everybody in order. They keep the order of the whole orchestra, right? And then you also, not all orchestras have choirs. In this case, we do, in this particular photo, image of the orchestra. They bring the human element. They reminds that there is a human element present. Think about Handel's Messiah, the Hallelujah chorus and how they're singing. How is that? And then, of course, as I mentioned, you have the audience. So all these elements create what the orchestra is. And just to remind you, the conductor leads the orchestra. The section leaders have the leaders of those particular sections. The strings elevate the emotion, the brass brings energy, the woodwinds adds color, and the percussion keeps order, and choir brings the human element. When you think about that and you apply this to either your team or mentoring, let's say mentoring, which is the main focus of what we're doing, we need to find people in our lives. I don't know which section do you play, maybe you are in the string sections. If you are in the string sections, you're a person that elevates the emotion. Maybe you need someone that can give you order, to teach you how to bring order in that case, or someone who adds color to your life in your mentorship, or maybe someone that can bridge the energy that you're lacking or more direction, or remind you to be more human in your interaction as a leader. So as you look at these, I want to do this quick exercise and fun exercise. I want to show you a short pieces of a song that I would say is a popular song, that is an iconic song that I'm pretty sure, even if you don't know the title, you've heard this song. So I'm going to play just portions, and what you want to see here, this is a representation of how this is a song that I recorded. The horizontal lines with the colors represent different instruments that you're going to see there, and we're going to hear isolated sections of the orchestra, just a few portions. So what we're going to do here is see if you can guess if you can name this song, okay? So you have, as you hear it, you're going to put in the chat to see, oh, I know that song. I've heard that song before, okay? Is everybody ready, Lisa?
Ready.
Great, okay, good. We're going to hear the strings first. And you should be able to hear in a second. All right. Any guesses? You can put it in the chat. Okay, which section would you like to hear next, Lisa? We have the brass, woodwinds, percussion, choir.
I'm a big percussion girl, so let's go with percussion.
Okay, let's hear the percussion. This is just the percussion on this particular song. Okay, any guesses? Still open, the chat is open. Okay, what's the next session you would like to hear? We have brass and woodwinds.
Christine, what do you want to hear? I think
woodwinds. Let's hear woodwinds.
Woodwinds, okay, great choice. They add the color. Okay, any guesses at this point? Uh, let me see. Okay, we're missing. We have choir and the brass. Which one would you like to hear? Michelle. Oh, you, yeah.
Yeah. No, go ahead, Michelle.
Yeah.
Choir or the brass? Or brass?
Brass. Brass.
Brass. Let's hear the brass. All right. And I think the only thing we're missing is a choir. Still, the chat is open to see if...
No guesses yet.
Yeah, no guesses? Okay.
No guesses yet.
Maybe this one with this choir? Okay, can you name this song? Any guesses? Nothing yet?
Okay. Bindi, Govin, Christine, any guesses?
No.
All right.
You heard this song. You heard this song, I promise you. Unless you live under the rock in the last, 20 years or so.
Okay, let's hear it. Question for you in the time that we have left. What's the one takeaway that you hope that we walk away with from that exercise?
Yeah, I purposely left out the melody. Now, the melody is what distinguishes any song, is what is actually copyrighted. Is the fingerprint of the song, is what makes unique a song from another. Is when you don't remember the lyrics of a song and you say da 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 da, oh yeah, that's the melody. So the melody is the identity of that any organization has. It's the mission, is the purpose, what makes you different from another person. And when that is removed, it's like listening to a karaoke song. The melody is removed and it's purposely created for that to bring a singer, but the melody is that glues everything together. And in your life, you need to have a sense of identity as a leader. What is going to be in terms of mentoring? Who are you? What is the sense that keeps the reason why you're here? And if you are in an organization, your organization needs to have a sense of identity, which is the mission or the purpose that you're working with. And the big takeaway, I think, but I would love to hear what you think. But basically, what I normally hear from people is every part of the orchestra is important. Every member of the team is important. Even when you hear the percussion by itself, it sounds a little noisy and could be annoying, but they give the energy to that. The percussion keeps everything in order and gives the energy to something that will never sound by ourselves. Just by ourselves. We need to have people who makes that sound better.
I love that. And, it really speaks to Christine's comment in the chat, which is that this is such a wonderful analogy. How you help leaders understand the whole sound of the orchestra relates to the whole company or organization in terms of the outcomes they desire for the organization. Although each is an expert as a musician, their solo performance is so much better amplified by the whole orchestra. Well said, Christine.
Beautiful. Yeah, that was very. I need to copy that to say, because it was just so poetic.
Yeah. All right. Well, put the copyright around it, and you got it.
Yeah, of course, Christine. I always love to give credit to people. Christine, that was beautiful. Thank you so much.
Javier, just a special thank you to you for helping us think about music differently, helping us think about leadership differently, helping us think about mentoring differently. I know that it's a lot of great information. I'm looking forward to myself listening to the recording. And if folks want to get in touch with you, I've added your contact information here on the screen. So thank you so much for that. I hope that you'll join us, everybody on this call and those listening will join us in June for our next Thought Leader conversation. As we record this, it's in April. We're going to take a break in May because lots of travel and good things afoot. But we're going to be talking more about goal setting with Jason Van Devere, who some of you may know through his work at the Goal Crazy podcast in June. So hope you'll join us for that. Javier, thank you again so much for joining us. I've learned so much. I hope it's been valuable time for you and for everyone who's joined as well. and we'll look forward to seeing you all in June.
Yeah, thank you so much, Lisa, again for the invitation, and Michelle for the great support in having here. I'm just going to say something before we go,
Please.
that this is more than a metaphor. Metaphors are powerful, but when you look at the language of music, it connects all parts of the brain like no other human experience. And when you use that for mentorship, to help people remember what you're listening, what you are teaching in leadership skills and capacities and competencies, then you are ahead of the curve, because music helps flatten the forgetting curve. So that's why it's something that is a beautiful metaphor, like Christine said, but it's even more than that. It's a powerful tool to use in your leadership.
Great for us to keep in mind. Thanks for clarifying that.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for helping us all think about how to lead in tune in our mentorship relationships and elsewhere. So thank you, everybody.